and said that Gambia is actually the act of genocide, or the applicant submission is plausible in this case, which I think is very important to note.
Yeah, indeed. If you look at the situation, the UN fact-finding mission enumerated a lot of crises in Rohingya, and this results to the creation of the largest refugee camp around the area. And in fact, even the 2019 report of the fact-finding had it that, the Rakhine state, the situation there is in a troubled, condition, actually, which is not safe for refugee. And the government of Myanmar has not done enough to improve the situations of refugees in Rakhine state. So this is calculated to amount to genocidal intent, because mass exodus of people are forced or pushed to a corner where they are even disenfranchised from the elections. They don't have rights to participate, and the government, in their argument during the court proceedings of the public hearing in December, noted that actually they acted in defense of their country, because this whole scenario was preceded by the armed group attack on the Rakhine state. So the government and the military forces came in to defend the people, to prevent looting, to prevent further disaster. This was the argument by Aung San Suu Kyi, who definitely was there in her, by representing herself, instead of using lawyers for the representation. And this woman, who is the leader of Myanmar, is actually a human rights star. So for her to come and defend the military in this aspect was a point that the court had to definitely look in. But today, the backing themselves on the 2019 fact-finding mission of the UN, in fact, reiterated this bad or the troubled condition in Rakhine state for refugees. So I think this is a big plus for Gambia, isn't it?
It is a big plus for Gambia, of course, because even the court says that the fact-finding mission shows that 744,000 Rohingya Muslims fled to neighboring Bangladesh. So in the opinion of the court is that the Rohingya Muslims are vulnerable in Myanmar. So that is in support of the Gambia to show that, the Rohingya, the Myanmar state should take all measures to prevent any genocidal intent or act that will harm the people of the Rohingya Muslims. The court also takes the mission of the UN fact-finding mission, and it notes that the Defense Council said in December that Myanmar have been engaging in reconciliation processes and to make sure that the Rohingya people are brought back to the country and are also safe. But what the Defense Council is saying, that the reconciliation or the engagement by the Myanmar state is not really sufficient in their view, because they have not done enough to protect the Rohingya minority in Myanmar.
This is a very important case to note, because already, we had our human rights expert the last time we were on this case, saying that, Gambia is a state like any other UN member state which can take measures. But this was also another point that, was a good defense site for the Myanmar to say that Gambia is, in fact, coming in the wrong time, when the country is working on reconciliation effort, trying to use local remedy in the justice system there, trying to bring people together and make them forge ahead on this case. Why is Gambia taking up the case to the International Court of Justice? But today the court is making it clear that whatever effort is being made at local level is not enough to prevent the Gambia from seeking the protection of people who are being, whose rights are being violated for 2017. Until now, the situation is not improving, and these are also captured in the fact-finding mission reports by the UN. I think that was a big plus for which we also noted earlier and it was something that every reporter must have been following. The other point that we want to just discuss is the allegation that Gambia is taking up the case in the name of the OIC, Organization of Islamic Conference.
Yes,
you know,
with the backing of the United Nations.
With the backing of the United Nations. What was the response today actually was, Gambia didn't write that in their documents. It is it is a Gambia versus Myanmar. Nothing like UN, nothing like OIC.
Yeah, and as such, the judge really ruled that Gambia because it is a member of the Genocide Convention. As such, Gambia has a right to submit or file a case against Myanmar. So he's saying that this is really plausible, but the defense counsel were alleging, saying that it is not plausible because Gambia as an independent, it's not independent in this case, but it is taking the backing of the OIC and of course the United Nations fact-finding mission. But we have seen that the ruling here, they're saying that Gambia submitted this sub-application as an independent body or as an independent country against the genocide in Myanmar. So they are saying that it is actually plausible, and the court also considers says that, or in their conclusion says that the conditions to request for provisional measures by the government of the Gambia is actually met, which earlier on we heard that the defense counsel is saying that the request for provisional measures are not met, but in the ruling today we heard that they are actually met in the Gambian side, which I think also it's a good plus for the Gambia there.
Yeah, like we said, it was a battle. He who alleges must prove. This was the situation in which Gambia was in. And today, after about 1 month, the Gambia is there again to witness the order being passed. And this is the world's most high court, actually, where no other court is above it. So if whatever it decides means the whole world is interested in it, not the fact that we are in West Africa or a tiny West African state in Gambia doing it in its name, but this is a landmark, historical act that the Gambia had taken. But we recall that some critics also have been posting saying that why is Gambia taking up this, and then for that Batambedu, who represented the Gambia, was able to say that it doesn't matter in terms of human rights, it doesn't matter where you come from, whoever is on the world actually is your neighbor, and as far as you have the rights and it is your obligation to do your efforts to help them or protect people. That is the face of humanity that Gambia has taken there. So today, what do you think critics will say again, the same people who argued like this earlier?
They will say that the court is in favor of the Gambia, but the court also presented, like I said earlier, they are experts in this area, they understand their job, so they did not just look at one point, but they strike a balance in all of these things, and they come up with their final verdict, and the verdict shows that. And not only that, they also said that the court rules that Myanmar must consider or bring measures that will prevent any act of genocide or any act that will inflict pain or bodily harm on the people of Rohingya, and also ensure their protection and guarantees that their rights will not be violated anymore. So which I think is very important. Critics will always say that still now the Gambia backs its findings on the genocide, on the UN fact-finding mission, just like on the defense side what they have said that it is incomplete because the Gambia's evidence is based on the UN fact-finding mission. So these are some of the things that the critics will say, but as we all heard on the rulings of the case today by the judge, that and Myanmar also is requested to bring out all the measures that they have taken in making sure that they prevented the human rights violations against the Rohingya Muslims, and they are only given 4 weeks or 4 months to take their submission to the court, which a copy will be filed to the Gambia government.
Yeah, now we switch on to our guest who is online in The Hague. Reed Brody has been with us on this case. He is a human rights expert who by himself, go as far as to the court, to definitely, observe the situations. Reed, welcome to join us.
Can you see me?
Yes, we can hear you, and it is very clear. Can you hear us?
Okay, I can hear you great. Wonderful.
Yeah, welcome back after 1 month observing the case. We have now come back also to observe the order that is being delivered today.
Well, this is just, it's really an amazing decision. And I think one of the most important things to recognize here is that Gambia won unanimously. That means all the permanent judges, and even the judge the ad hoc judge who was designated by Myanmar, voted for the provisional measures. And that's going to make it much more difficult for Myanmar to disobey those measures. I mean, obviously, the decision, the provisional measures ordered by the ICJ are binding. They're legally binding. But the ICJ has no way to enforce those measures. We hope that the other UN bodies, like the General Assembly, will work to enforce them. The Security Council will not, unfortunately, because Russia and China have vetoes there. But the force of a unanimous decision will put much greater weight on Myanmar.
Reed, it is not unusual for the ICJ to make a ruling and the disputing side would try to ignore. So, do you think Myanmar will comply with the provisional measures passed today?
Well, it's going to be difficult. They they have chosen a path of repression, of oppression, of persecution as their national path, unfortunately. But this ruling, and there are a lot of specific things in the ruling. The requirement that Myanmar report, the requirement that that they don't destroy evidence. That can be, the more specific the order, the easier it is to detect violations. We were able to find out about, or we were able to really quantify the burning of villages, for instance, by aerial photos. So there are a lot of things that, a breach will be very hard to hide. You have a unanimous decision. Obviously, in the last instance, these things become political. We know that China stands behind Myanmar.
This is also another aspect. We will get there shortly, but just to break down what the provisional measures mean for Gambia.
Well, I have to see exactly what the court said, but the court required that they halt and prevent any genocidal action, that they preserve and do not destroy evidence, that they report that they report to the court on all the measures.
Exactly, and on the reporting, the court rules that from as of today, 4 months after, the Myanmar should send a report to the court, and then 6 months after that also, until the case is decided. What sort of contents we expect in such a report?
Well, it's going to be, we know that the government of Myanmar has not been always, well, to say the least, let's put it this way, they've lied. And they have shielded the truth, and they have, but, when you start to do things that are measurable, that can be, that can be particularly ascertained whether they're true or not, you make it more difficult. We are a long way from actually improving the lives of these abused and persecuted Rohingya. Today they have a first taste of justice, but it's going to require continued attention, not so much by Gambia. Gambia has done its job, and it will continue when the next
definitely. Definitely. And looking at the United Nations court, we know there are 3 ongoing cases, and then 17 cases are pending. Why do you think within a space of 1 month the court is taking this case in a sort of a priority?
Well, because, and they've given the reason. Well, first of all, Gambia made the very smart decision to seek emergency measures. And that brings something onto the court's calendar within, and this decision within months rather than years. Only a few cases are actually filed every year, and they usually take several years. The court, in its decision, talked about the irreparable harm that would be caused if they did not step in. And so the court felt this was important. Again, I've been involved in a lot of cases, and a case like I was really surprised that it was unanimous. It's hard to overestimate how important.
Yeah, because even the 2019 UN fact-finding mission report indicates that the situation in Rakhine State has not improved. Wouldn't the people be at a greater risk now that the government might be like a sort of angry lion?
I think the government is it's also important to remember here that the government sent Aung San Suu Kyi directly, they sent her to The Hague. She brought, the world's attention to this case by personally appearing in The Hague. And in doing so, the government bought into this case in a very big way. A lot of people say, of course, I have to say I was involved many years ago in a case against the United States when Nicaragua brought a case against the United States for supporting Contras for mining Nicaragua. So the U.S. walked away from the case, even before the hearing. They said, you don't have jurisdiction, we don't believe it. They boycotted the case. Here, Myanmar has gone headfirst into the case. So it's going to be very hard for them to turn around now and say, we don't believe in the court, this was not a legitimate decision, etc.
So, Red, we know that this is not...
Last question, because I have another interview.
Cool.
Yeah, we know that this is not a criminal case, but a legal, duty towards responsibility of the states, against, genocide. So what are the sanctions that you think are likely to be imposed on Myanmar?
I'm sorry, what is the what?
sanctions that are likely to be imposed?
Well, again, the court has given an order. That is the sanction for the moment. The order is that. Now, and that order by the court, provisional measures, actually transferred to the Security Council, which is the only body at the UN which actually can impose physical sanctions. Now, we know, unfortunately, that China and Russia will block any attempt to impose sanctions on their ally.
How do we establish that as of this stage?
I'm sorry?
How do we establish China or Russia might step in on this case? What interest would they have there?
We know politically that they have, previous attempts, whether to refer the case of Myanmar to the International Criminal Court, or others. I mean, we just know politically that China certainly would exercise its veto.
Yeah, and thank you very much. Unless you want to throw one more word on the panel.
Thank you very much.
That was Reed Brody, a human rights expert who have been following the case, the Gambia versus Myanmar, since the outset, and have been also sending his contribution to the panel with us at iAfrica. So we just get into the last part of it. That was it, and actually the ruling has been made on the orders that Gambia requested sometime in November 2019. Julde, we close it up there.
Yeah, just a final take home, just to say that this is Gambia has won unanimously in this case, and also the Myanmar state, they are ordered to take all measures against any act of genocide or any act that will harm the citizens or the people of Rohingya state or Rakhine state, and they are also ordered to report to the court on 4 months, and after that 6 months, so that they can report, and a copy should be filed to the government of the Gambia. They are also asked to take measures to prevent any act of genocide or anything that will harm the people of the Rakhine state. So these are the most important things there, and the admissibility criteria, they also rule out that it wasn't necessary. But in this case, they are also saying that in the Defense Council that Gambia did not allow them to exhaust local remedies, which the court ruled out that wasn't really necessary, but because Gambia as a member of the Convention on against prevention of genocide is plausible here in this case.
Thank you very much. And from there we have all this to follow, whether the Myanmar will be reporting after 4 months and 6 months thereafter. What will be the content of that report, and of course that of Gambia? All of them will be reporting on the other parts today. Who else will be a party to the case, as our expert is suggested? China or Russia might come in. iAfrica will follow every bit of it, and until then, continue following our programs on iAfrica.tv. Thank you.
Fear over electoral rigging rocks Zimbabwe as the country.
Yesterday, after listening to Prime Minister May's assessment of the state of the negotiations,
why it is our diocesan patron feast day is because The Cathedral of Our Lady of the Assumption is dedicated.
Do not have it in their mindset or in their psyche that we are playing against Algeria.